Are you tired of hearing mental health from a superficial view and want to hear about realistic views? Well, you come to the right place, a space where healing is central, but also normalized. Your hosts, Danica and Myra, who are in the mental health field, will explore topics that help promote healing in your everyday life. Through our podcast, you will get the real and the work to focus on your healing. Welcome to Black Women Healing Podcast. All right, y'all, we are back with another episode with Asha. You'll learn more about her, but first, before we hop into our episode, Danica will start with a random discussion question.
Okay, random discussion question. If okay, let's say that it never got dark, right? There was always sun. There was always sun shining, because I ain't even gonna get into the astrology and all of that I don't know the piece of what it really is, right? But let's just say it was always sunny outside. Do you think that would impact like your mood and like your daily living?
Oh. So like if there was never light ever, or like maybe there was light and then light went away?
No, like there was only light. There was no darkness. Like there was always light. Like we never.
Alaska. It's like how Alaska is, Danica?
Yeah.
Alaska don't never get dark.
Yeah.
You're right.
I've heard that too. I heard it doesn't really. I don't know. I think overall you'd be a happier person. I don't know about you guys, but I think like sunshine and light, I'm a lover of like bursts of light, so those things make me very happy. I think people would generally be happy.
Yeah.
It makes me think about like like seasonal affective depression disorder, in a sense of like when it's rainy and when it's like all like gray outside, and even during like the winter months, people can be affected, like their mood, but also just like that change. I think we get used to structure and certain ways even when the time changes. I think sometimes it'd be like freaking us out. So I think it'll be some positives, like you're saying, for people's mood. Those who like really need, we all need light and like sunshine. Supposedly it helps with like endorphins and our serotonins and all of that stuff. But I don't know. So I ain't gonna lie, I kind of like the nighttime sometimes. I don't know. Like it's certain things I think about. Like I like to go see like drive-through movies. I don't want to see it in the daytime. I'm just just thinking of stuff that I'm like, no, I actually would rather like nighttime fits better for certain things.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely. Yeah. Okay, so
that was very random, y'all. It was like off the brain.
I can tell. I can let you know Alaska was like that.
I don't believe it still. I'm gonna have to do my own research.
I'm not gonna play with you.
It's not. It can't be. It just can't be always.
It is. It's been like that.
I'll have to look it up. But
yes.
Let me look it up. But go ahead, Myra.
All right. So today's guest is Asha Boston. She is a filmmaker and community activist. Asha currently serves as a founder of nonprofit The Dinner Table Documentary and CEO of Passion Fruit Vineyard Productions, LLC, a multimedia production company that creates branded content and program development for various nonprofit and commercial entities. In June of 2016, she was honored by the Obama administration White Council for Women and Girls as a nominated changemaker at the United States of Women Summit. In January of 2019, she began a year-long fellowship at the IFP Made in New York Fellowship for her debut film series, A Time Before Kel. She most recently worked with Nike's Nike by You and Cultivator to design a limited edition Nike Air Max 270 inspired by A Time Before Kel film. Wow, that's dope. So
thank you.
Yeah, so can you tell us a little bit more about you, how'd you both become a filmmaker and a community activist, and whatever else you feel like we should know about you?
Sure. I think community activism is in my blood. No one in my family really would I guess like identify themselves as community activists, you know, out there on the front lines protesting, or, being kind of like figures and faces of a leader and movement in different ways. But just through their actions, they are very selfless people. I come from a family that's very community oriented, that cares a lot about the well-being of those around. And so just from growing up in that environment, I don't think it kicked in until after I graduated college. Like, oh, whoa, this is what I do, and this is who I am. So, for majority of my life, I was very interested in like a career in fashion, and then I decided that journalism would be it for me. It seems like a jump, but at the time, journalism felt a little bit more realistic. And I started working with Teen Vogue when I was 16. They had a program called the It Girls program, where you were kind of like an influencer before being an influencer was a thing. And through that opportunity, I was able to build my resume and immediately start working part-time for different outlets throughout college. And during my senior year of college, I took a film class, and that changed everything. And it was such a beautiful experience because I had the opportunity to create what's now my nonprofit, but then was just a documentary called The Dinner Table, centered around this idea of showing how multidimensional Black women are when we're in like table spaces. And it was created to be like this visual antithesis of like what you see on reality television when Black women come together. And yeah, it was my first film. It was not the greatest production value, but I was passionate about telling the story. And I think because of my experience in journalism, I became a skilled storyteller. And, just from creating that body of work, I started visiting schools and showing, young girls like, oh, look, this amazing thing. We can empower each other as Black women. And then I'll never forget the day that I got challenged. And I'm one of those like weird people that really enjoy challenges. So a student was like, oh, this is cute, but this is not my life. And I'm like, oh. And it was like kind of a blow to my heart, because it's like, here I am thinking I was doing this noble thing by inspiring girls with this, documentary I made. But now I'm realizing that you shouldn't just be inspirational. You should be active. You should be out there making a difference. And so I decided to make it a reality for that young girl. And the first dinner turned into a very large dinner. And then we just kept planning dinners after that. And it snowballed into a nonprofit. But at heart, I'm still a very passionate storyteller. So I would say around the same time, the dinner table started to take off as a community organization in 2015, I couldn't shake the film bug and just started thinking about how I could tell the story of being displaced in your own home. And that's where A Time Before Kale came from. So I don't know, like, I think over time, I start off wanting to tell these stories about representation and about, our lives and when and where we enter. And then they end up resonating with people and turning into movements far beyond what I could have ever imagined.
Wow, that's amazing.
Thank you.
I know we kind of touched on it about the dinner table documentary, but in particular, if you had to say like what was your inspiration and kind of go into detail on creating the dinner table talk?
Sure. So it came on the heels of like, again, like taking that film class and being inspired to tell a story through a visual medium. And I remember talking to my professor about the different things that I could do, and he was very encouraging about me getting out there and filming something, anything. People make movies on iPhones. I'm like, yeah. And originally I wanted to do a documentary on an individual and the change he was making in his community, but with just timing and scheduling, it didn't work out. And so I remember feeling pretty defeated. It was the spring of we were kind of going into the spring of my senior year, but at that time I'm supposed to be choosing the classes for next semester and figuring out like what jobs to apply to post grad. But what I ended up doing was like trying to figure out how I wanted to make a documentary. And I remember one day going to my professor's office, Dr. Tolliver, and just venting to him about how frustrating it was to be so passionate about something and feel these like invisible like forms of obstacles where it's like you want to tell this story but you don't know how or where to start. And then like like divine intervention. I leave his office after he empowers me to like email that guy and tell him that I'm gonna make this film. Like yeah. And I'm walking back to my dorm and I go on Instagram and I see this prompt by Essence Magazine. And they were like, we're looking for films on multidimensional Black women. And I'm like, I could do that. And I'm like, after I email this guy. But then like by the time I got to my room, I'm like, well, maybe I could try this Essence thing out. And I'm a lover of research. So I started researching why they were making this contest. And it was because they felt like at the time they surveyed their readers, and a lot of Black women were very displeased with how we were portrayed in reality television. And so I'm like, well, instead of me making a film that, you know, is just like cute or funny, like, why don't I just speak to the heart of the problem, which is how we're portrayed in reality TV? And that's literally where the dinner table was born.
Wow. I'm inspired. I'm inspired just listening to you speak about this. I'm so glad that you read that. You said it was an email or a post?
It was a post on Instagram. I have to go back to my archives because I remember I like reposted it too at one point because, you know, it was a contest. And at first I was making the film to enter the contest and I missed the deadline. But I remember just getting the feedback from my professor to keep going. You know, you have a story on your hands. And luckily, like while I was editing it and finding out that I missed the deadline, I was in a room full of, you know, really encouraging friends who were like, oh, this is good. Like, keep going. So I was like, oh okay.
Hey, that is so cool. So why do you believe it is important to create spaces for young girls of color specifically to connect to each other?
Oh man, I think it doesn't happen enough. The opportunity for us to really connect and have conversations of substance with each other. I think especially in this social media age, it's a little hard because we're all very distracted. But I mean, even if you take social media out of it, I think there have always been like distractions because there's been television and just a bunch of different things. But I think that it's super important because they deserve to know that they are valued for who they are. Mm-hmm. They deserve to know that they are seen and heard and respected. Mm-hmm. And I think that when we don't create these spaces and we just allow them to go through life like without support or feeling like they have a community behind them, it becomes a really difficult battle of self and how you know, relate to other people and how you help other people. Something that I think about a lot is, again, like I'm a lover of research. So after I created the film and like the name, the dinner table really started to hit me like, wow, this is really good. I was researching why the dinner table is an important space. And apparently there have been so many studies done on students from K through 12 who have dinner with their families regularly and mm-hmm. how they are able to navigate conflict resolution. They're able to express themselves. They just possess all of these skills of someone that is very grounded in who they are. And then it made me think about the reality of the fact that I have this, you know, organization that not only creates like a space for you to like meet someone inspirational and share a meal, but I'm creating this space where you can feel safe and start getting that nurturing where you may not have it at home. Mm-hmm. And just from the results that I've seen of the young women that I've worked with over the years, lets me know that, you know, it should be done more often, but it's something that needs to happen because it's a crazy world out there. And it's really complicated to navigate it as a young Black woman, especially with all of the obstacles. But what I find and what I even use for myself personally is that when I'm grounded in who I am, there are no obstacles, because regardless of what barriers may exist to stop me, because I am who I am and I know what I know and I'm on a mission, there's no one or anything that can stop me from getting to what it is I need to do.
Exactly. Super important.
Ooh.
Are you about to say something, Danica?
No, I just think that most definitely, I believe that Black Women's Healing Circle, a Black Women's Healing Circle, when I used to help facilitate it in San Diego, I remember like one of the topics, I think it might have been like talking to your childhood self or something. And that's when I recognized that like we get to the spaces where we might be in, college, or we're adults now, and now we're talking about these things. But why wasn't we talking about these things when we were, it's elementary and middle and high school, and then like really putting things in place so that we can, once we get to these levels, we can navigate conflict resolution, we can express ourselves more. So I just think it's so important.
Yep, definitely. What do you believe are the challenges to creating spaces for young Black girls?
Definitely implicit bias. Implicit bias, and sometimes, well, it's twofold. I feel like to start, sometimes it can be ourselves. So there are certain things that we think we cannot do, or we don't believe in ourselves enough to push forward and do. But again, like in working with the young women over the years, and even now, once we break down that barrier of you being your own obstacle, then it's just people in spaces who don't see the value in you, or don't see you for all that you are, that try to box you in, and that try to stop you from being the best of what you can be, or try to keep you where they think that you belong. And so in those cases, it takes a lot of, again, creating community and creating these strong bonds between women and other allies who can build bridges so that young women can go, again, from like who they are to exactly who they want to be, without having to face all of those things, underneath it. But people people and their implicit bias can definitely be a big obstacle.
Yeah, most definitely. Do you believe that young Black girls are more influenced by social media than their parents and or their schools? And why?
It's a little bit of a toss up. I can say yes and no. Yes and no. No, because if the young woman is in a home where, again, there's a lot of conversation going on, a lot of dialogue, a lot of empowering of who she is and building her up, then social media and those things won't really affect her as much. They still do, but they won't affect her as much. Yeah. But yes, because social media is so, in a weird way, like present with you at all times. Something that I recognized very early, in developing the research for the organizational part of the dinner table. I was just talking to young women about reality TV and their relationship with, a lot of the reality stars, because in my early workshops, I go in like, this show is trash, this person is terrible, and they're looking at me horrified, like, how dare you talk about my girl? And I'm just like, why do you feel so attached to these people you don't know? But then I'm like, well, how could I tell them that they don't know these women when they watch them on TV, and then you carry them around on your phone all day, and you're updated with their life because they're always updating their life. So you feel these emotional ties to people that you've never met before. Yeah. And in small ways, if you admire them, you start to emulate their behavior, especially when there's conflict. I think conflict sometimes is not just a result of someone being in the wrong and someone being in the right. A lot of times it's like the warring of egos and the warring of miscommunication. And I think that for young women, sometimes, like when we get into these really tough situations that are uncomfortable and filled with conflict that we can't control, our first instinct is to kind of be the most confident version of ourselves that can defend ourselves. And if you're watching reality TV and the person that you see does that in a way that is different, I'll use the word different and a little more like violent, I think you would resort to that. So I mean, of course, like now in 2020, things have developed so much further than just reality television. But I started with that to say that it is very hard to be a a healthy influence in someone's life when you don't live with them as much as someone who's on their phone.
Yeah, most definitely. This is not like in the questions that we sent you, but it's a question
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking about. And thinking about yourself as a young girl and thinking about the girls that you work with, what is one piece of advice or one thing you would tell them or you would tell your younger self? Or one thing that you find yourself even telling them, or one thing you find yourself wanting to tell your younger self?
Um, I always tell them that they're worth the space that they take up.
Mm.
Um, I don't think people believe that enough. And even when you're doing great things, sometimes when you're in the presence of other people doing great things, you make yourself so small.
Mm-hmm.
And there is no rule that says that you have to do that. There's no rule, there's no like code of conduct that says that, you know, when you're a light and you're in the presence of other lights, you have to make yourself small or make yourself like overtly bigger than the situation. You are just enough for who you are, and you know there is worth and value for you being in any room.
Yes, that was great. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that we covered some things today. And I know that you kind of just explained, you know, some powerful things there. But if you could give a takeaway for our listeners, what takeaway would it be?
I would say
Or homework. That's sometimes what we call it, homework.
homework.
Yeah.
I would say do something that scares you without regret. And I say that because even now, that's something that I'm learning how to do. I think, you know, as we grow, we have like certain dreams or certain ideas or things that we brush to the side out of fear. But as I step more into myself as a woman and as a Black woman, I realize that there is no room for fear when there is no ceiling, as Blue Ivy said. So I would say like do something that scares you without regret, because what do you have to lose?
Yes, most definitely.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Asha, for coming on Black Women Healing Podcast. We're so happy to have you. And I think
Thank you for having me.
absolutely, this topic is so relevant, and the work that you're doing is so powerful. Mm-hmm. Oh, my goodness.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, you have the rest of your a good day. Okay. So, yeah, this episode is super important. We want to encourage everyone listening to support and try to create some type of space for the younger Black women in your life. And it doesn't have to look like actually you creating an organization or you creating an event. It can literally be you going up to a young Black girl, just telling her that she's beautiful, or going up to a young Black girl, telling her to, keep doing the things that she loves to do. So yeah, and I also, because I know at the beginning of the pod, I asked about that question, and I had to research. I'm sorry to the Alaskans and anybody else who is really loves Alaska. I guess Alaska does have this period where they don't get sunlight, or they don't. It's a period where they get sunlight consistently, and a period where they get like darkness or no sunlight. So I'm so sorry, but I learned something today, so that's what matters. A book that I'm going to share that I think is super important is this book called Black Girl Magic, and it is edited by Mahogany L. Brown, Idrissa Simmons, and Jamila Woods. And it's just this is volumes 2, so it's just a whole bunch of different poems by Black women, some of them kind of going into their childhood, some of them into their adulthood, but it just really sheds light on different stories and the different struggles that we go through, but also the similarities of them. So yeah, I encourage y'all to read this book. What about you, Myra?
Speaking of Mahogany O. Brown, I recognize that name, and so I was like, let me Google her real quick. She has a ton of like different works that y'all can like research and read. Yeah, this lady is amazing. She has Woke Baby, Smudge, Redbone. I think that's where I know her from, Redbone. Swag, Dear Twitter, Love Letters Hash Out Online, Unlikely and Other Sorts. And just her background, like, she's amazing. But anyway, I knew that name. So in today's episode, I mean, it's kind of like my realm of stuff like that I do and like my niche. So for me, I was kind of like, yeah, like I kind of know these things. But if I could add something, it would just be that if you feel like there is something that you missed as a kid, you got to create it. Like no matter what, you have to create it, because if it's being brought up again, like you're seeing it again, like for example, I know like when I went away to college, there were so many things where I was like, I don't know how to do this. I don't know this. I don't know that. And I was starting to find my friends didn't know it either. And so I was like, well, I'm going to go back to my community and make sure that other people do know it. So if you notice that there's something that you didn't know that you wish you knew, if you can go back and make that happen in any type of way, I feel like that's super important. And yeah, I like how Danica was like, just tell like a young Black woman she's beautiful, compliment them, things like that, help out where you can. I don't know if I have any resources this week. Do you have any? Do we share resources?
Girl, you are the resource.
Shut up.
It's so funny, y'all, because Myra be really downplaying herself. Myra has a whole organization dedicated to the support of not only Black women. What you say?
For some little.
And it's been going on for 5 years.
Yeah, it'll be 6 in December.
Goodbye. Myra is the resource. Yeah, homegirl is. This is the work that she's doing, and it's so important. And if you ever in the Inglewood area, please contact her and ask her, can you attend one of Femme Scholar meetings, because the Femme Scholar meetings be lit, y'all. It's the most powerful thing I've ever seen in my life.
Be prepared to cry.
Right, be prepared to cry, but it's a good cry usually.
Right. All right, y'all. So do we have
one more thing? Yeah. So due to the coronavirus, I know on our last episode we shared some tips and some things to kind of keep your mind at ease and to take care of yourself. But a lot of stuff is being canceled. So I'm gonna miss the cancel culture. Okay, but
you're wrong.
We gotta laugh. We gotta laugh about the things.
Yeah, definitely.
But so we had an event that we were hosting a workshop on April 4th at the Cocoa Conference, and they have canceled the event due to the coronavirus and also just wanting to make sure that their guests are comfortable. So if you already bought a ticket, I would suggest you to reach out to them if you was thinking about it. We're sorry that it's not going to happen, but they are planning on rescheduling it. I guess shedding light to people whose events probably are being canceled and things like that. I'm sorry that it's happening, but let's hope that we can reschedule, hopefully in the future, some of these events and take in the present moment. We don't have control over it. So like Myra was saying on last episode, just really taking home on this moment to breathe and decompress from everything that, life, we're continuously going. So I feel like this is one of those things that's like forcing you to, you don't get to go. You kind of got to chill right now. So just accept it.
How are you coping with all these things getting canceled?
Oh, I don't like it. Yeah, I'm a structured type of person. I like my stuff when I schedule something, I like it to go a certain way. And especially when you schedule like months out. But I think it's just a reality check. It's something I literally have been working on, being in the present moment, trying to stop scheduling my whole year out when it doesn't work like that all the time. And sometimes you need to chill back and you got to be still, and you could be missing more opportunities by moving so quick and having all these things on the schedule. So as much as I don't like it, I accept it. Yeah. What about you personally?
I honestly hate it because I always set in place vacations and things to do to give me something to look forward to. So over the past month, I was like, I'm gonna work my ass off. So I was like working extra hard for this vacation, and then now the vacation is canceled. I'm like, I ain't doing nothing. So I've been turning stuff in the day of that they're due, doing stuff when I feel like it, which is really bad. But I'm just like, this is not fair. I'm gonna do what I want to do. So everything's just been like, when I feel like doing it, how I feel like doing it. You don't like it? Oh well. It's just really bad.
This is
But
really good for you.
I've been so annoyed, but whatever.
You need that because you always, like you just said, like you always doing the most. So it's kind of good.
Yeah. All right, y'all. That is it for this week's episode of Black Women's Healing Pod. We look forward to engaging with y'all. Make sure you rate our podcast, leave a comment, and share with us what you want to hear about. So we'll be back again soon. Bye.